Hey guys, James here today and welcome back to another Sims 4 video. This one is made possible by EA Game Changers. We're here in early access of the Sims 4 Snowy Escape to check out the brand new platform tool that is coming free for all players in a base game update when this game comes out. You do not need to have Snowy Escape to use this, but I thought today we'd have a look at it. It is basically split leveling in the Sims 4, finally. Essentially what it does is if we use the platform tool that I've got selected here, we can drag out a platform. And now, right now that doesn't really look like anything, but if we grab a flat square, which we're used to, this would normally be our floor here, and that would be the floor height. And we wouldn't be able to change the floor height unless we use this to drag up our foundation, in which case we could. But you might be noticing the platform moves up with the foundation and it stays raised up. And that is a huge game changer in itself. Platforms are essentially variable height foundations that can sort of go on top of flooring, and this is the new floor height. So you cannot get underneath the platform, likewise how you can't get underneath a foundation. But these can be placed on top of any room or in any room at any height up to the maximum wall height you currently have selected. So if I had the taller wall height, we could make this even taller. The only limit is basically where the wall goes up to or down. We can go down as well. So this can go down as far as whatever the current top level basement floor is. That's how far that can go down. I think it looks like we have the tallest basement wall. So you could also do that. Not particularly useful in this case, but you could definitely lower it down so you can easily create sunken living rooms, or I mean, sunken any room, without having to mess around with foundations or anything like that. So the really cool thing about this is if we build a new room like this and we have it up on a foundation just because we can, then inside we want to create a sunken living area. Now before we do that, let's get some lighting in here. Previously, the way we would have done this would be to remove a section of flooring here and then open this up. And then this would be our, I guess, quote unquote, sunken living room. We'd have to add another roof over top of it like this. But essentially what we've done is create an area that's not really a room, so then it doesn't really function correctly. It's not easy to move either. And the lighting, as you can see, is entirely different because this is considered outdoor lighting at this point. So even if we were to get like wood or something as well, you can see how different that lighting is. This is an exterior sort of lighting. This is interior lighting. Now with this new system, instead of doing this whole thing and removing the floor and getting the weird lighting issue, what we can do now is let's just put the floor back. Let's remove that wall. So now that we have this big room right here, the easiest way to lower a section of a room down without destructively doing so, because if we used a platform tool here and dragged it out like this, which you think, oh, that'd be great. It actually just ends up removing the walls, which is not particularly useful. So what I would suggest doing is actually doing the same thing we did before, grabbing the wall tool, then selecting this block and pressing the lower platform. So let's go down 4. So that is like one sort of standard set of stairs, 4 steps. Then we can just remove this wall again. And you can see the lighting is the same. Obviously the wall looks different because that is actually the platform texture. We can change that by going into here to the walls and empty rooms, and then down here to platform trims. There is all of the default foundation ones in here, but then there's also a whole bunch of additional ones they added that make a lot more sense for interior use. There's so many colors in here, a lot of different brick ones. Even hidden on some of these swatches are different variants. So we got horizontal planks here, but then we've also got vertical ones and a whole bunch of colors, some tiles here as well. Some of these tiles are actually like these matching wall patterns as well. Now, it would have been nice if we could have just used wall textures on the actual platforms, but it is nice that they have given us a variety of these wall patterns that we already have, so then you can then go and match them to ones that we have. Though, having said that, the lighting doesn't quite match there. It looks like it matches on this side, and I'm wondering why that is. Is it just not enough lighting? I mean, I was talking about lighting, and I think it might be because this is actually on this platform here is on the exterior platform edge, and this is interior, which is annoying. But I guess if you wanted to fix that, if you put a room on that side, maybe. Okay, no. If I remove the wall, then yeah. So the lighting matches if there's no wall above it, which is not great. So in that case, not ideal. I would probably just end up using something that isn't the same wall pattern because in that case, it looks like you're supposed to have it looking like that. Anyway, ignoring the wall issue, the lighting of the floor and all the items inside will be the same. So like these couches will look the same on both levels and that's all good. And this, actually, the other cool thing about this, with this system, previously if a sim wanted to interact with someone down here or someone up here, or even just like watch something, they couldn't do it across the different heights. But platforms are technically considered the same level, so a sim can actually talk to another sim from across a level. Now, obviously, if they're too far away, they'll probably still move together. But that means if you had something that was like this, or if you were actually building like a stage for a music performance kind of thing, like I did in the lounge in this world, the piano and the microphone can be watched from the lower level or the upper level, so you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. But also I feel like knowing Sims, there'll probably still be glitches with that. So with the platform right here, we can add stairs obviously on the inside, and we can drag them all the way across if we want, or we can just have them there. Now the other thing to note is platforms, because there's so many different heights of platforms now, they've actually added a whole bunch of half wall heights, all the way up, pretty much every step of the way, all the way up to the maximum wall height. So every little tick of the way has a new half wall height, which is great. But I also suggested in feedback that it would be nice if they weren't listed all out like this, because this is super un-user friendly trying to find which one you need. You basically just have to go like this and start dragging them out to see which one you actually need. I suggested it'd probably be better to do it like platforms where you click on them and there's arrows. Like if you clicked here, and then you could just adjust the height of this wall, or even just have this thing here, like where you could drag the half wall up or down. I don't know, that just seems to make way more sense to me. But the purpose of this is to line the side of platforms with half walls. And what I mean by that is if we had another platform at the back of the room here, this is gonna destroy the wall, so ignore that. I really wish it didn't do that because it's super unhelpful as well. But if we have this platform at the back here and we're like, oh, I want this to match the wall, and you saw we were having the issues with the wall not matching. Like we couldn't quite get that tile to look the same as it was supposed to. Although in this case, it probably would because it's in the best case scenario. Anyway, so let's say we had something like that and we wanted it to have a certain wall texture. Maybe let's pick one of the new wall textures. We wanted it to have this texture, but on there. Obviously that's not a wall, which would make things way easier if it was. But if we were to use a half wall, in this case the smallest one, drag it across the front, we can then put that wall texture on the half wall. So then you can see you can match it exactly to the same one. Now this works at every single height, so that's why there's so many of these half wall heights now. The weird thing about it is you can see here, you kind of expect the half wall to be placed on top here, but what it actually does is it places from the bottom of the whole room. That's why there's so many different heights, because you can have so many different heights of platforms. So all your half walls and walls for that matter will place from the ground level, no matter where you're building them. So you can see that wall will place from the ground level, but it will stick up beyond. Now that is not true of fences. Fences actually place from the floor level. So you can see this is on here, or this is up here. So if you want to use fences, you definitely can, but you cannot use a fence and a half wall in the same spot. You can see here, it will remove the half wall, but the platform is still there, but it means you cannot use a custom wall there. But what you could do is then use a mixture if you wanted, for example, to do something like this. You wanted to use a mixture of half walls and fences. That's how you do it. You have to use a taller one because all walls place from the ground level. It makes sense when you think about it, but it's also not the most intuitive way to do it. Ideally, what I would want is just the edge of a platform to be a wall. You know, if that was a wall, then you could put any wall texture on it. You wouldn't need all these different wall heights. And ideally, I'd like these to just have like a little draggy arrow that you could pull up and down, because that would also make a lot more sense. Now, you can also do stuff like this, where you have, you know, part of the platform exposed, part of the half wall there. So you could really mix and match a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of stuff you can do in really creative ways. I think as everyone gets their hands on this, we're gonna start seeing a lot of really interesting things. Now this, I don't know why you'd do this, but you could. Now, one thing to note is, let's go back to basics here. Got a nice square. One thing to note is Sims can step up one height. So a Sim can step up onto this, no problem. And then from that, they can step up onto the next height. So they could step up to this, they could step up to this, and you can basically make a set of stairs out of platforms without ever using stairs. However, as soon as you get up to another set like that, they cannot step up that anymore, and that will require stairs. And that's easy enough to just add on like that. I love creating modern homes, and the one problem with Sims 4 that we always had was if you wanted to do a flat roof in The Sims 4, it always looked really, like it's really flat. Like, and typically flat roofs are not actually that thin. There's no way you'd usually have a roof that looked along these lines. Yeah, so this is what it would look like. You'd have a flat roof for your modern house, and it'd look like this. And if you look at it at this angle, it looks ridiculous. This angle's okay. We did get a little bit of reprieve when they added in half walls, because then we could add in what looked like roof thickness. I mean, this is not a nice looking house. Don't judge the aesthetic of it. But we could add in this, and it kind of looked like it had some thickness to it. But the same problem arose. You know what? No, you know what? This is really ugly. I gotta fix this. Hang on. Okay, I mean, that looks more like something. It's still not great, but whatever. So you could add in something that looked like it had a bit of weight and thickness to it, but you still had the same problem as soon as you looked at it from above. It looked kind of silly that you just had this thing sticking up. I mean, it's not the worst, but I always ask for just a way that we could like fill in the half wall, essentially. And with platforms, you can do exactly that. You basically just click on the roof, raise it up, and now it has thickness to it. The roof is actually where it should be, and you can have a half wall all the way around, or if you didn't even want the half wall, you could just get rid of it and then just have the platform sitting on top. It also allows for way more creativity in terms of how you want to do it. So now, instead of just having the one singular height, you could also do stuff like this, where, well, what if I wanted this bit to be a bit lower here? So we add a little bit of depth to this section. Maybe that section sticks out there or something. And then maybe further back, this whole section here was actually a little bit higher than the rest. You know, that sticks up there, and then that section's a little bit lower. We have this bit here. So anyway, it allows us to add all this geometry to a flat roof and make it look a lot more substantial and a lot more realistic in terms of the way that it would be built. I mean, not this particular example, but it allows us to do stuff like this. Not only on roofs, but inside of rooms, we can do so much with it as well. We can do it basically as much as your imagination allows you to. So this is just a little build I did that I was having fun with, and it's got a sunken kitchen, which is actually below ground level. So this is actually sunken down below where the ground is. Then we have a bedroom that has multiple platforms in it, just little steps that your sim can walk up. Over here, we have a much higher raised up section that goes all the way up here into this living room. And this is all on the same level of house. Like this is all on the ground floor. Over this side, we even have a raised up section here. And then it goes up higher into that area there. So there's like all this sort of stuff you can do with it on the inside, on the outside of a house. And it allows for so much creativity. Like over here, we have a taller half wall that just allows us to create this little balcony area. Here, I'm using it to create some planters around either side of the stairs. Over on this one, I've got a fence instead of a half wall, just to keep it a little bit more open. And here is actually a house that might look familiar to some of you. I built a house that looked exactly like this back in The Sims 3. And now we can finally recreate it in The Sims 4 because it uses, in The Sims 3 anyway, it used constrained floor elevation to create all these different heights up here. But in The Sims 4, we can now use platforms to create the exact same look and have it true to what it was originally. So we can do stuff like this, for example, as well, to give this sort of big weight to roofs now. But yeah, that is a look at platforms. I hope this gave you some sort of insight to how they work and what you can do with them and how you're gonna work with them. If you want to know some more tips and tricks with platforms or even ideas that you can use them for, let me know in the comments down below and we can make another video when the update actually drops. But that's going to be it for this one, and hopefully this gives you a good overview of what you can actually do with these things. Not only can you use them for roofs, you can use them for, you know, living rooms, inside the house, entryways. You can use them as stairs like I have over in the lounge there. You can see it just in the distance. There's so many different ways you can use these. And the fact that Sims can actually interact across different heights of a platform is a huge bonus too. So they're not just good looking, they actually function in most cases. For the most part, they work pretty well. And I think they're going to add so much creativity and depth to builds. We're going to see some really cool stuff once everyone gets their hands on this. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you next time. Make sure to leave your comments, suggestions, and feedback down below, and have an awesome day.